If you're watching this, I'm assuming you just got a fat stack of Capital One miles from the Venture X, the Venture, or the Capital One Saver One card. And yes, I know they're called Capital One miles, but I'm going to call them points because I am conditioned to do so and I'm a weak human being. So today I'm going to show you the best ways to use your Capital One points. Let's get into it. So let's start with some of the worst ways because I want to be sure you know why you shouldn't be using these options. So first, to access your rewards options, select view rewards whenever you log into your Capital One account. If we scroll down and see all of our options here, let's start off with redeeming for cash because cash is king, right? So you can either take a statement credit or you can mail a check to your address. Either way, it's going to be the same. For example, let's say you want to redeem 10,000 points. For 10,000 points, you'll get $50. And now how do we know if this is a good deal or not? It's a simple equation. You simply take the cash that you're going to get or the value that you'll receive in cash, and then you divide it by the number of points that you're using. So if you divide 50 by 10,000, you're going to get 0.0005. Now multiply that by 100 or just move that decimal by 2 spaces, and that'll give you the number of cents that you'll get per point that you use. In this instance, it's 0.5 cents per point, and that is not a good value. For Capital One miles, I like to at least achieve 1 cent per point because that's the easiest minimum value to get with these points, and I'll show you how to do that here soon. But redeeming it for cash, just know that you're getting half of the value that you could if you were to use your points otherwise. Now let's say we want to shop with Amazon, and let's say I want to finally buy this beautiful coffee canister that I've been eyeing forever from Fellow. And let's say I wanted to just cover $10 of that with my Capital One rewards. It would cost 1,250 miles. Put that in the equation and that would just give me 0.8 cents per point, which is not quite where we want to be yet. If we try to redeem for experiences and try to go see Usher in Atlanta, which that would be quite a show, that would cost me 22,785 miles to cover the cost of $182.28. Put that in the equation and you also get 0.8 cents per point. And yes, even the gift card option, $25 for 3,125 points, also 0.8 cents per point. Now that we got those silly methods out of the way, let me show you some ways that I actually do recommend to use your miles. First off is by covering travel purchases. So if you book travel using your Capital One card, you are able to then cover those purchases by selecting this option, and then you'll see potential purchases that you've made that you can then cover with miles. And this is going to be on that 1 cent per point basis. As you can see, it's $13.90 for 1,390 miles. Plug that into the equation and that's a nice solid 1 cent per point. So you can do this as many times as you like for travel purchases made within the last 90 days. And you don't have to do the full amount, but you could do partial however you want. Now, in addition to past travel purchases, you can also book a trip on the Capital One travel portal. Let me show you how to do that. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like any other travel portal like Expedia. You can select flights, hotels, rental cars, premium stays. You simply type in what you're looking for. Let's say we're looking for a room in Honolulu. It'll show you all of your options. And now I like booking hotels with points and miles because this is where I can put my Philosophy 101 course that I took in college into use. Because what do you value more? Do you prefer to get 2 nights in a 4-star hotel for 75,000 miles? Or do you prefer to get 2 nights in a 3-star hotel for half of the number of miles, but then you'll have miles left over to use for other purchases? And so this is a real eye in the beholder type situation. Let's go ahead and proceed with this option here. Now, like I said, I really like the Capital One travel portal. It's really clean and easy to use. It's got the reviews. You could choose whichever room you want. They have additional protections that Capital One offers that you can pay for if you're interested in. For instance, this will make it fully refundable up until the day before you actually check in. So go ahead, select whichever room you want. And then as you get to the payment section, you could select to apply your Venture X rewards, but this will also give you 1 cent per point. So $385.43 will take 38,543 miles in order to cover that purchase. So now we know how to get at least 1 cent per point by using your points for travel, and we now know why you shouldn't be using it to get cash equivalents unless you absolutely needed to. But I'm here to tell you that we can actually do better, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that with 3 real-world examples. We're going to do this by converting rewards. Doing so will allow us to use Capital One's transfer partners, which include any of these airlines and hotel programs. I'm going to show you how to use 3 of them to start off with. I'm going to show you how to use Singapore Airlines. But essentially from this page, you're able to transfer your miles from Capital One over to this airline just by putting your membership number for that airline or hotel program. So to get started with this example, we're going to go to singaporeair.com. You'll need to create an account and log in order to look up award flights. In this example, I'm going to show you how to get from Los Angeles over to Tokyo, which is a special route that Singapore Airlines flies because it is actually a direct flight and you don't need a layover in Singapore like most other flights on this airline. So let's say we're looking for next summer and we're going to look for an economy. Now this will pull up all of our options. Now as we can see, there is Saver award space and that will just cost 38,500 miles. If there is not availability, it'll get that 65,000 miles, which isn't as great of a deal as this here. So if we put both of these flights here, it'll cost us 77,000 miles and $50 for a round trip flight to Tokyo. Now in order to figure out this cent per point calculation, we need to know how much it would cost to go round trip from LA over to Tokyo. And now if we just do a quick Google flight search from LA to Tokyo on these same dates, you can see that one of the cheapest round trip flights is $1,043. Now you can use either this one or the Singapore Airlines. I tend to use the cheaper one because if I was paying for this flight, that's what I would pay, the cheapest flight. So using that same equation, we will have to adjust a little bit. You take $1,043, you'll then subtract it by the taxes and fees that we pay, so subtract $50.50, and then you divide 77,000 miles from there. And so this will actually account for what we actually saved by making this reservation with points and miles, and this will give us 1.28 cents per mile. And so this is better than 1 cent per mile, and so we can do better, but honestly for me at this point, it doesn't matter how much better you do as long as you get the experience that you want. But let me show you what I'm talking about. For this one, we're going to be taking advantage of the Flying Blue program. So this is Air France and KLM Airlines, two different airlines. I like to use KLM's website for no particular reason. And so to search for award flights, you'll again need to log in and then just make sure to select book with miles. In this instance, we're going to go from Dallas over to Paris. And now to look for flights, I'm going to recommend that you go all the way to the last date and select that one. That'll bring up a nice, beautiful award calendar that we like to see. Select confirm dates. Change this to business class, and then we can hit search flights from there. It'll take you to this page saying there's no flights for this current month, but that's all right. We're gonna hit this arrow and we're gonna look at all these different award flights with this calendar. And in November here, we can see a business class flight is available on the 9th for 50,000 miles one way. And so here's the details of that business class flight. It'll be 50,000 miles one way and $230. And so this is quite high on taxes and fees, so we will need to account for this, but let's find a way back. And now a quick note, this business class flight obviously is going to be a bit harder to find than if we're going to look for an economy class, but finding this award availability is a way to get great value from your points and miles. And so now if we pair that business class flight with this economy flight on the way back for the low price of 20,000 miles and $80, that would bring our total to 70,000 miles and $410 for a round trip flight from Dallas to Paris with one way in business class. Now truthfully, figuring out how much value this gives you is a bit more sticky because there's not really an easy way to figure out a mixed class booking price except for looking at one-way segments, and one-way segments isn't really a good way to look at this value because one-ways typically are priced more than round trip. And so like I said, at this point, trying to figure out how many cents per point you're getting is going to be a little bit outrageous and more work than what it's worth because you know you're getting more than 1 cent per point. But just for the sake of consistency with the video, if we take this 2,696 number, which is just the price of the one-way flight from Dallas to Paris in business class on Air France, subtracted by the $410 taxes and fees, divided by 70,000, you'll get the valuation of 3.2 cents per point, which is great. So I've taken you to Japan, I've taken you to France. Now I'm going to take you on a cruise in the Caribbean with Virgin Red, another one of Capital One's partners. You're able to take 4 nights in the Caribbean for just 95,000 points at the time of recording. They do have rotating and different offers depending on when you're trying to book. But this offers for a 4-night cruise and you get to spend it in a sea terrace. Now this is an adults only voyage, and so this will cost you $2,546, and you will still need to pay the taxes and fees even though you pay it with points. And so if you subtract those two numbers divided by 95,000 points that this would cost, it will give you a 2.2 cent valuation. And just so you know, that points price includes 2 people to ride with you and it includes all these different amenities included. It doesn't include drinks, unfortunately. This is yet another way to use those Capital One miles. And now booking this cruise does take a few more steps than if you were to book a flight or a hotel, for example, and it gives gives you the steps out here. I'll have to create another dedicated video for one of these days whenever I decide to make this booking. Now there's one more value maximization tip I want to give you before leaving. However, be sure to like this video if it's been helpful so far. And now that tip is to make sure to take advantage of any transfer bonuses. For example, there are regularly transfer bonuses over to Virgin Red from Capital One that can be as high as 30%. That would take that 95,000 point cruise and bring it down to nearly 70,000 points instead. And so taking advantage of these transfer bonuses will really increase the value that you get with your points and make them go further. Now, these are just a few ways on how to use your Capital One miles. My channel is essentially dedicated to showing you all the different ways of doing so be sure to subscribe for more. I've got this playlist lined up for you to see all the different kind of redemptions options out there using your credit card points and miles. This is Michael with Nurse Michael Travels. I'll see you in the next one.